What's good, y'all? It's almost Christmas time. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the year, and if you're an NBA fan, you know what that means. All-Star voting is open. They just opened it a little earlier this week, so I figured now is as good a time as any to give my first All-Star ballot of the year. Now, of course, this isn't my official All-Star ballot. Obviously, there's a lot more basketball to be played between now and the actual All-Star game, so things are always subject to change. Before we get into my actual ballot, I do want to just highlight a few changes that happened this year for the All-Star game. So we are having 3 teams of 8. 2 of them are going to be USA-born players, and then the other team is going to be a team of internationally born players. It still will be 12 players from the East and 12 players from the West like it's always been, but the other big caveat this year is voting is not based on positions anymore. It used to be 2 guards, 3 front court, then off the bench, 2 guards, 3 front court, wild card. All of that is out the window. You could start 5 point guards if you want. It probably won't happen, but if you want, you could do that. They don't have to be a certain amount of guards, certain amount of forwards. It's just the 12 best basketball players. Make sure you guys leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's just jump right into it and start by talking about my Eastern Conference All-Star ballot. And I do want to say, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Franz Wagner, both of these guys have been out for a little bit and are still going to be out for at least another week or so. Giannis is probably going to be even longer than that. So I did include them as injury reserves. Both of these guys would probably start, in my opinion, the All-Star game for the Eastern Conference. And I do think that they deserve to be mentioned. But since they've been hurt, are currently hurt, and will still be hurt for a little bit in the future, I did not include them on this list. Obviously, by the All-Star game, they could be healthy and they could make it. But at least for this, if you're wondering where they are, it's because they're hurt. Now let's actually get to my All-Star starters from the Eastern Conference. First off, I'm going to start with my guy, Jalen Brunson, the NBA Cup MVP, averaging 29, 3, and 6 while shooting 49% from the field and 39% from 3. Jalen Brunson is the definition of an absolute bucket and an offensive powerhouse. Obviously, we all got to see it on the bright stages of the NBA Cup as he led the Knicks to win the NBA Cup tournament. But he's been doing it pretty much this whole season. The last few seasons now, he's been one of the best scorers in the NBA and definitely deserves to start yet again. In the starting backcourt next to him, I have Cade Cunningham, who is leading the Pistons to be the #1 seed at the time of recording this video. They have been the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference pretty much for the entirety of the NBA season, and a huge part of that is based on the play of Cade Cunningham. He is putting up 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 9 assists. He's second in the league in assists right now. Again, just being the offensive engine for this Detroit Pistons team. Whether it's operating in the pick and roll, getting the ball up in transition, getting downhill and getting to the rim and then kicking it out, Cade Cunningham has shown that he is one of the best orchestrators of an offense in the NBA. This season, he seems to have taken another leap from where he was last year and definitely deserves to be a starter in the All-Star game. Next up, I have Jaylen Brown as a starter. He has really surprised me this year. I thought with no Jason Tatum, obviously the Celtics traded away Jrue Holiday, they traded away Kristaps Porzingis. I thought they were going to have a very down year, partially on purpose, but also just the lack of talent. They have proved me wrong. The Celtics are pretty handedly in the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference, and majority of that is credited to the former Finals MVP Jaylen Brown stepping up and taking on that responsibility of being the #1 option, and he's looked absolutely incredible, putting up career numbers this year, averaging 29 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He's shooting over 50% from the field, 36% from 3. He's 6th in scoring across the entire league, which again, really has surprised me. I definitely thought that he would be a candidate to maybe get shut down during parts of the season to continue the tank for the Celtics, but almost solely because of his high-level production, they are actually a playoff team. Another guy that is keeping their team afloat and surprising me a lot is Tyrese Maxey. I mentioned when the Sixers and the Knicks versed off against each other in the playoffs a few years ago, I've said how Tyrese Maxey, watching him in that series, completely shifted what I thought of him as a player. He was that good in that series. Now, this season so far, he's playing like that entirety. Those little 6 games sample size that I saw in the playoffs, that is exactly what he's been doing for the entirety of this season so far. He's one of the only players in the league so far that is top 10 in both points per game and assists per game, putting up 31 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. The fact that Tyrese Maxey is one of the best off-the-dribble three-point shooters in the league while also being one of the fastest players in the league makes him damn near impossible to guard. He also has sneakily gotten stronger and stronger, it seems like, every single year, so that helps him with his finishing. So he'll speed right by you, get to the rim, or he'll off-the-dribble, walk you down and then pull up for three. He is really one of the more unguardable players in the league, and honestly, one of the more underrated, if you ask me. And the last Eastern Conference starter that I have on my All-Star ballot is Jalen Johnson, the first-time All-Star, if he actually makes it, but he would be a first-time All-Star this year. Again, talking about guys that are coming up out of nowhere, surprising me. When Trae Young went down earlier in the year, I thought the Hawks were going to really fall off a cliff. They started off pretty shaky. Without Trae Young, I was like, oh, this is over for them. Disaster season for the Hawks. Jalen Johnson proved me wrong, though. He has really stepped up his play. I feel like he should have been able to win Most Improved Player the last, 3 years, but he's gotten hurt and been ineligible. This year, you could maybe even make the argument again because he has made that other jump to be this all-star level player, putting up 23 points per game, over 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. He is one of 2 players in the entire NBA so far that are top 10 in rebounds and top 10 in assists. You guys could probably figure out who the other guy is. We'll talk about him a little later in this video. But that's just how insane of production Jalen Johnson has been putting up. And it's not just the numbers and production and stat sheet stuffing, but he is legitimately one of the more efficient players in the NBA. He's really leveled up his three-point shot where he is a serious threat from there. He's a positive defender and one of the best transition players in the entire NBA. The world needs to know Jalen Johnson, and I really hope he is a starter this year. Now moving on to the reserves of the Eastern Conference, I want to start by talking about Donovan Mitchell because he was the 6th starter, if you want to say. He was a guy that was in that group of 5 that I just talked about, but just happened to fall right out of it and be the first reserve. Not that it really matters. Regardless, Donovan Mitchell has been having a really productive season despite the fact that the Cavs themselves have really seriously struggled. Part of that is injury, part of that is fit, I would say, part of that is some stuff that I haven't even personally figured out, but the Cavs have been really lackluster, and it's not really too much because of Donovan Mitchell's fault. He's 4th in the league in scoring, averaging 31 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, while still putting up the pretty efficient shooting splits that he normally does, shooting 49% from the field and 38% from 3. Donovan Mitchell has still, for the last few seasons now, been one of the better scorers in the entire NBA, with his burst of quick speed to get to the rim, his big leaping ability to dunk over you, to shoot off the dribble. He's been great at. He all around has been one of the better scorers in the league for a while now and definitely deserves to still be an all-star. Next up, we have Scotty Barnes making his return to the all-star game. He and the Raptors are having very good seasons this year. Scotty Barnes himself is putting up 20 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and the biggest thing for Scotty, in my opinion, has been the scoring efficiency. He has really leveled that up, shooting 50% from the field, and the key part here is shooting 38% from 3. Scotty Barnes has never really been a good three-point shooter. He's shown little stretches last year where he was like, oh, maybe he could feel something out. This year, though, so far throughout the first 25-ish games, he has been a really efficient and solid three-point shooter, especially off the catch. And of course, it's not just the offense you talk about when talking about Scotty. Defensively, he is one of the more versatile players in the NBA. He's 6th in the league in blocks per game, which as a forward is extremely impressive. But it's not just the blocks. He's also averaging over a steal and a half per game and is just all around a very solid positional defender. Now we have our first international player, kinda. I think he could fit in both categories. Of course, I'm talking about Karl Anthony Towns. During Olympic play, Cat played for the Dominican Republic, and he represents the Dominican Republic very strongly. So I do think that he would classify for the international team if they needed to fill out that roster. But if they already have 8 players on that roster, I could see Cat also playing for the American team. So I don't know which one it'll end up being on. Either way, though, Karl Anthony Towns is definitely an all-star this year. Cat didn't have the best start to the year, especially when you talk about his scoring efficiency. He was nowhere near the level of scorer he normally is. But as of late, it seems like he's really kicking it in gear, and especially during these last few stretches of games, he has really been a super efficient scorer, a great three-point shooter, a rebounder. And the main key thing for Cat this year that I've talked about it a little bit on the channel earlier this year, but defensively, he's been okay. Again, I want to stress this. He is not a lockdown defender. I don't think he's going to make all defensive team or anything like that. But he has been solid. He's been okay. And that is a big improvement from what we saw last year, which at times he was very, very bad. Staying in New York for this next All-Star, but changing the borough, we're going to Brooklyn to talk about Michael Porter Jr. and his first All-Star appearance, at least for my ballot. When MPJ was traded to Brooklyn this last offseason, like many people, I assume, I thought that he would have this big increase in production. Obviously in Brooklyn, there's no go-to guy there really. There's no one taking the ball out of his hands, and Michael Porter Jr. is a very talented basketball player. So I figured, yeah, he'll probably average maybe like 23 points per game on some pretty shaky efficiency, but it is what it is. The Nets want to be bad, so it'll work out. That's not the case though. MPJ has really impressed me so far this year. He's averaging 26 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. But again, the biggest thing that jumped off the page for me was the efficiencies. He's shooting 50% from the field and 40% from 3 while shooting almost 9 threes a game. By far a career high on volume-wise. Like I said, he obviously would have the opportunity, but he is definitely making the most of the opportunities he's given. And alongside Jordi Fernandez, MPJ is one of the main reasons why the Nets are not the absolute worst team in the Eastern Conference. Now moving on to our second international All-Star. That is, of course, Josh Giddey that I'm talking about. Even though the Bulls had that super hot start, they started off 5-0, and they've kind of fallen off a cliff since then. Josh Giddey's play and production has not really fallen off that cliff. Putting up 29 and 9, pretty similar to MPJ. I know Josh Giddey can put up the production. He has the talent and the opportunity to have the ball in his hands a lot and really produce for an offense. But the biggest thing for me, for Josh Giddey, has been the efficiency and also the aggression that he's now playing with. He is shooting 48% from the field, 40% from 3, and he is way more aggressive scoring the basketball, whether that's him actually just getting downhill to the rim and using his big frame and finishing, or when teams are dropping in the pick and roll, he will now take that pull-up 3, and like I mentioned, shooting almost 40% from 3, he is actually knocking that shot down and has really just changed his whole feel of an offensive player, specifically scoring. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the ballot, I did not include Franz Wagner or Giannis Antetokounmpo on this All-Star ballot because they are hurt. If I did include them, this would be the end of my Eastern Conference All-Stars. I did include 2 more players, though, to be the injury reserve players to replace Giannis and Franz. The first guy I have is Jalen Duren. Like I mentioned with Cade Cunningham, the surge of the Pistons is really something special that we've seen so far this year. And alongside Cade, Jalen Duren has been a huge part of that. Not only just the offensive boom that he's kind of had as a center, his touch around the rim, his strength. Sometimes he just bulldozes people, finishes right through them and dunks. He's super athletic. But it's also his rebounding. His defense has really taken a step in the right direction as well. And just all around has been super productive and super meaningful for the Pistons. Since they are atop of the Eastern Conference, I definitely thought they deserved a second All-Star. And then the final injury reserve and final All-Star on my ballot for the Eastern Conference, I have Brandon Ingram. I was really going back and forth between Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram. I really wanted both of them to make it, and because of the injuries to Giannis and Franz, they both make it. I don't know if both of them will make the real All-Star game, but I think they both have an argument at least. Brandon Ingram has been a really important piece to the Raptors, surprising most people and being a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. A big part of that is his closing ability. A lot of times he is their closer, and when they need a go-to shot, he's the guy taking it. He's one of the better 3-level scorers in the NBA, and although injuries have kind of been keeping him off the court the last season or so, I definitely am happy to see him healthy in Toronto and putting up these great numbers. And last but not least, before we move on to the Western Conference, I do have 3 honorable mentions that were just barely left off the list. They were on my short list here. That is, of course, Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat, Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic, and Desmond Bane of the Orlando Magic. All 3 of these guys I definitely think have an argument to be made to have them in the All-Star game. If there's any injuries, I can definitely see them being the top candidates to be those injury replacements. They just barely missed off the list for me though. Now moving on to the Western Conference, and I realize this video is getting a little bit lengthy, so I appreciate you guys for sticking through this. Again, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you already haven't. But for the Western Conference, as like we did with the East, I'm going to start off with the starters, of course. And the first guy that is the starter, the most obvious name I would say, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning MVP, reigning Finals MVP, the guy who is leading the team with the best record that we've seen in years so far. Obviously, SGA definitely deserves to be the all-star starter here, putting up 32 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting ultra efficient, 56% from the field, 44% from 3. I've mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one of the most perfect guards, offensively at least, we have ever seen. And it's crazy because I'm saying the offensive caveat, but defensively, he's no slouch either. He legitimately is one of the best players in the NBA. Definitely is going to be an all-star starter. Almost forgot to mention too, but obviously as a Canadian, Shai will also qualify for the international team. A lot of these Western Conference starters you will see actually qualify for that international team, including the second guy here, Nikola Jokic. If it wasn't for Shai, Jokic would probably be on his way to winning his 5th straight MVP, which sounds crazy, but that's how damn productive Jokic has been. He is the one player that is top 5 in points, rebounds, and assists per game, and he's top 5 in all 3. 5th in points, 1st in assists, 2nd in rebounds. The international players don't stop there though. Of course, we also have Victor Wembanyama as a Western Conference All-Star starter. He just came back for the Spurs a few games ago, helped them make it to the NBA Cup Finals. They did unfortunately fall short to the New York Knicks, but Victor Wembanyama looked still incredible in his limited minutes. Once he's back fully healthy and not under minutes restriction, I'm sure we'll start to see a lot of these crazy performances that we did see earlier in the year, but he's averaging 26 points per game, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 50% from the field, 36% from 3, and of course, leading the league in blocks with 3.5 blocks per game. Absolutely insane. Who would have guessed it? Another international starter. We have Luka Doncic as a Western Conference starter as well, putting up crazy numbers out there in LA, leading the league in scoring, putting up 35 points per game, along with 9 rebounds, 9 assists. You know, almost triple-double every night type things for Luka. When you look at this Lakers roster, like, obviously they have solid players. There's another Laker we'll talk about a little bit later in this video, not to spoil anything, but they obviously have solid players. Luka Doncic himself, though, has really elevated this team to a whole nother level. If he was not on this roster, they would be nowhere near where they are in the standings. Luka just does so much for the offense, not just scoring, but as a ball handler, as a playmaker. He is the entire system. I know a lot of people don't like his heliocentric type style, but regardless, he is the main reason why the Lakers are as good as they are. Definitely is an all-star starter. And last but not least, for the Western Conference starters, the only American-born player here, that is, of course, Anthony Edwards. Not only is Ant one of the more enjoyable players to watch, one of the funnier personalities in the NBA, but also he is one of the best two-way players in the entire league, especially when you talk about all-star level players. The two-way ability of Anthony Edwards is almost matched by none. Real quick, I'm going to put a caveat in there, perimeter-wise, almost matched by none. I do recognize I was just talking about Victor Wembanyama a few minutes ago, but offensively, his production has been great, putting up 29 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting the ball incredibly well, 50% from the field and 42% from 3. Obviously, last year, he really took that jump as a three-point shooter, and this year it is still there, still the same, and he still has all that athletic ability to get downhill and posterize you at any moment. Now to move on for the Western Conference reserves. Similar to the East, I had one player that was really close to making the All-Star starter, so I'm going to start by talking about him. That is, of course, Alperen Sengun. As you guys know, I'm a big Alperen Sengun fan. I saw this vision of him as a player all the way back from his second year in the league. I really I trusted the vision, trusted the process, however you want to talk about it, and now we are seeing it fully come to fruition. Alperen Sengun has been a super important part for the Houston Rockets, putting up 24 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists from the center position. That puts him in the top 10 in the league in assists per game while being a center. He truly is the offensive engine of the Houston Rockets. And I know that's crazy to say when they also employ Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers ever, but the entire offense is predicated around Alperen Sengun and his ability to back his opponent down, get to the rim, and finish with touch, or play make out of that post. If someone doubles, if he sees a cutter, whatever it is, he will make that pass. And I guess since I brought him up, I might as well just have him next. I also have his teammate Kevin Durant making the All-Star game. Like I mentioned, obviously they are truly centered around Alperen Sengun, but Kevin Durant is obviously a super important part to their offense. A big part of the reason why they're able to run a lot of these big lineups is Kevin Durant and his versatility with shooting the ball, being a ball handler, being a playmaker, being a defender too. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about KD and his defense. Obviously, he's getting older and it's declining a little bit. Still though, KD has been able to impact these Rockets games in a lot of different ways, as well as still being the super efficient scorer on all spots of the floor. I realized after pointing out Sengun, I definitely have a few other All-Stars in my background, including this next guy here, Steph Curry. There we go. A little weird pointing in the camera. Steph Curry, I do have on my All-Star ballot. He is the sole reason anyone should be watching Golden State Warriors games. Right now, things look very, very rough. Excluding Steph Curry. When you look at just Steph Curry, he puts on performances. He just made 12 threes in a game against the Blazers. They did lose that game, which kind of sucks. But Steph Curry himself is still playing at that super high level, averaging 30 points per game, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, and of course, shooting the ball super efficiently. Steph Curry definitely has to make the All-Star game. Coming down the home stretch here, only a few All-Stars left. I have another international player, though, and that is Lauri Markkanen. I can't lie to you guys, the Jazz have kind of been my guilty pleasure team to watch this year. Like, obviously, they're not amazing. They have been a little bit better than what I thought. Shout out Keontae George, and shout out Lauri Markkanen for being just an incredible scorer. He is 9th in the league in points per game right now, averaging 28 points per game, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and being one of the best movement shooters in the entire league. The next All-Star reserve I have is the first-time All-Star Austin Reeves. He is having an incredible season so far for the Lakers, especially in the beginning of the season when Luka was hurt, when LeBron was hurt. Austin Reeves was putting on a show, one of my favorite players to watch. On the year, he's averaging 28 points per game, 6 assists, and 7 rebounds while shooting 50% from the field and 37% from 3. I did not expect this from Austin Reeves ever. I know most improved player really is like from year to year, but if there was a most improved player for the last 2 to maybe 3 seasons, but really the last 2 seasons, Austin Reeves by far wins it from me. He went from a player that I thought was kind of a little bit overrated and got like the Lakers tax, if that makes sense. Like, obviously I thought he was a good player, but I thought the public kind of overrated him because he plays for the Lakers. Now, no, he is that good. He definitely deserves all the credit he gets, and he deserves to be an All-Star. Down to our final 2 All-Stars, and we have yet again another first-time All-Star. This is Chet Holmgren. Obviously, since OKC is by far the best team in the league, I thought they deserved more than one All-Star, and Chet Holmgren is the easy decision here. He's averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and of course, a full block and a half, putting him 8th in the league in blocks per game. But what really intrigues me about Chet is there's not a lot of players in his mold of player. You know, the 3-and-D centers don't really exist too often in the NBA, and he is one of the better three-point shooters as a center and one of the better defenders and more specifically rim protectors as a center. Those 2 attributes combined make him almost the perfect player to put here in OKC and honestly across the entire league. He's really impressed me as a scorer, more specifically off the dribble. He's been really aggressive in that aspect while still keeping his efficiencies up. So I definitely think he deserves the All-Star nod. And then last but not least, we have an international player and a first-time All-Star. Jamal Murray finally cracks the All-Star game. This might be the best we have seen Jamal Murray. I think he is having one of his best, if not his absolute best season in the NBA, putting up a career high 25 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. He's still shooting the ball incredibly efficient too, 50% from the field, 45% from 3. The Nuggets have really struggled with consistency, I would say, whether that's injury to Aaron Gordon or Christian Brown or, you know, their new addition of Cam Johnson. He hasn't been too efficient to start his Nuggets career. Obviously, they have Jokic, who's going to keep them afloat, but Jamal Murray has also stepped up and really help the Nuggets stay one of the best teams in the Western Conference despite all of these struggles and these lineup changes that they've had. For years now, people have been saying Jamal Murray is an all-star caliber player. Hopefully this year he actually does make it. And that is officially my first all-star ballot of the 2025-2026 season. Like the Eastern Conference, I do have some honorable mentions for this Western Conference. Devin Booker, I really wanted to have him make this list because the Phoenix Suns are really overachieving by a lot, in my opinion. I did not think they were going to be anywhere near a playoff team. They're pretty solidified in that conversation right now. So shout out Devin Booker. De'Aaron Fox, I also want to put on here because he's having a great season for the Spurs. And then the guy that I really wanted to put on here, but just I couldn't do it, LeBron James. This is the first time I have ever in my life made an all-star ballot and LeBron James is not on it. Of course, he's still LeBron James, so I do think he will ultimately make the team. He might even start when you consider the fan voting and everything. I do think that he deserves that just as a homage to his career and everything. If you just looked at the numbers and the players, though, and you change LeBron James and you make him Joe Smith, just some random player, I do think that these 12 guys deserve it over LeBron. So that's just kind of the decision I made. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments below who I snubbed, who your favorite pick of mine was, whatever it is. Let me know in the comments below. I like having conversations with you guys. I know this video is a little longer than normal, but I mean, I had 24 plus players to talk about in this video. So, you know, hopefully you guys enjoyed the full thing. If you did, make sure you leave it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.